Let's talk about the next one. And this kind of goes back, you've kind of let the cat out of the bag. We're going to look at it a little differently is with more adult children moving back home after college, are families beginning to rethink what they actually need from their home? In other words, it's like, we see the story of, okay, now the husband's turned into his man cave or it's a sewing room. I don't know if women still sew today, but now all of a sudden it's like they're moving back and it's like, oh, geez, I've got to do something different.
Well, yeah, and see what that does is it presents the homeowner with some realization of we got to do something here because it's in many cases, as we just covered, it's likely an older home, and especially if the adult children scenario is what's involved. And what I read in these articles, it's not like these adult children are moving back in because they're unemployed. They're employed, they're working, they're earning income,
Yeah.
but they've got an arrangement with their family, their parents, where they're allowed to move in and basically not pay rent. Maybe they help out with daily expenses, whatever. But then you realize, well, the home's not necessarily going to be meeting all of our needs, especially when we have more adults in the house. So that what that is underscoring is there's more multi-generational situations occurring in terms of home ownership. We've got multi-generations now living in homes much more often than we did before. It's more accepted. But then what that does is it makes you realize you've got needs. Like you may need to have a home office. You may need to have an ADU or a guest suite, or you may basically just not have enough gross living area, GLA as we call it, and you may need to add on. And so that's where you get into the scenario of, well, again, I may have a low first mortgage rate, but I've now got my son and daughter just moved back in, and they're 32 and 29, and they got jobs, and we need to re kind of engineer this house in order to support this multi-generational living arrangement. And so that's what then underscores the fact that, we need to figure out, and in a lot of cases, there's a lot of equity in this home. So now it's a case of, all right, time to tap into that and kind of make a plan, get some help with a contractor, interior designer, what have you, architect, and let's, create the additional features, facilities, room, in terms of, square footage and rooms themselves or detached ADU in order to meet what is now sort of our newly established multi-generational household situation. And that's, again, where we can come in, interview the customer and figure out what their needs are, what they think the costs are going to be, and then what's going to be the best way to finance those improvements so that they then can stay in there long term with that multi-generational family.